There is a level of mental and physical strength that most people never reach, not because it is impossible, but because it is uncomfortable. Have you ever met someone who does not break, someone who stays calm when everyone else panics, someone who keeps moving forward while others hesitate, negotiate, and make excuses? People say things like, "He is just lucky she was born this way. He only succeeded because of connections." But what most people refuse to accept is this: that kind of strength has a price, and most people are not willing to pay it. 400 years ago, in Japan, there was a man who understood this better than anyone. He was not the biggest, he was not the fastest, but he became unbeatable. Not because he added more motivation, but because he removed everything that made him weak. He removed dependence on comfort. He removed hesitation under pressure. He removed the need for perfect conditions. What he built instead was a mind that did not react and a body that did not quit. Today, you will learn exactly how that system works, not as philosophy, not as inspiration, but as a practical method you can apply to your own life. This is not about becoming extraordinary overnight. It is about eliminating what is holding you back until strength becomes your default state. Stay with me, because once you understand this, you will never look at discipline the same way again. The man I am talking about was born in a time of constant conflict, a time where hesitation meant death, a time where excuses did not exist because mistakes were final. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. Most people imagine him as a legendary warrior with extraordinary physical abilities, but that is not what made him dangerous. In fact, by his own admission, he was not the strongest, not the fastest, and not the most naturally gifted fighter of his era. Yet he fought over 60 duels and never lost. So what separated him from everyone else? It was not motivation, it was not confidence, it was not talent. It was elimination. Musashi understood something that most people still do not. Strength does not come from adding more. It comes from removing what weakens you. He did not wait for perfect conditions to train. He did not depend on specific weapons, environments, or routines. He trained with wooden swords, metal swords, 2 swords, 1 sword, and sometimes nothing at all. He trained in heat, cold, rain, and exhaustion, because the enemy does not wait for you to be comfortable. Life does not pause until you feel ready. Musashi wrote that if your ability depends on conditions, then you are already weak. If you can only perform when everything is aligned, then you are fragile. Most people live this way without realizing it. They say they will act when they feel motivated. They say they will start when the timing is right. They say they need better tools, more time, more energy. What they are really saying is that their discipline depends on comfort. Musashi rejected this entirely. Instead of adding more effort, he removed dependence. Instead of building strength on motivation, he built it on consistency under any condition. Instead of chasing confidence, he eliminated hesitation. That is why his mind did not shake in battle. That is why his body responded without doubt. That is why he remained calm when others froze. This is where most people misunderstand his teachings. They think this is philosophy. It is not. It is a system. A system designed to strip away excuses until only action remains. A system that does not ask how you feel, only what must be done. A system that transforms ordinary people into something unbreakable. And once you understand this principle, you will begin to see the truth. The problem is not that you lack strength. The problem is that you are carrying too much weakness. In the next part, you will see how this system is applied in real life, not by a warrior, but by someone exactly like you. But here's the problem most people run into. They hear stories like this and immediately think it does not apply to them. They say that was a different time. He was a warrior. My life is normal. My problems are different. And that is exactly where strength is lost. Because the system Musashi created was never meant only for combat. It was designed for pressure, any kind of pressure. This is where our story shifts from history to real life. There was a man named Leo, 32 years old, an engineer, married, 2 kids. No dramatic background, no tragic origin story. Just a normal life filled with small failures that slowly add up. Leo promised himself he would train. He joined the gym 3 times and quit 3 times. He planned diets that lasted days. He set alarms he never respected. Strong intentions, weak execution. At work, when things became difficult, he froze. When conversations became uncomfortable, he avoided them. When pressure showed up, he retreated. Nothing was collapsing on the outside, but inside, he was slowly losing trust in himself. The breaking point came during a meeting, an important one. His heart started racing. His hands began to sweat. The room felt like it was closing in. A panic attack. Doctors told him nothing was physically wrong. The problem was not his body. It was his nervous system. His mind was treating discomfort as danger. That sentence stayed with him. Because for the first time, he realized something important. He was not weak because he lacked motivation. He was weak because he had trained himself to avoid discomfort. That is when he found Musashi. Not as inspiration, not as a quote on a wall, but as a manual. Leo did not change everything at once. He changed one thing. He stopped negotiating with himself. No perfect timing, no ideal conditions, just action. If this sounds familiar to you, pause for a moment. Do not overthink it. Just comment 1 if you have ever made promises to yourself that you did not keep. Because the moment you recognize this pattern is the moment real change becomes possible. And this is where the system truly begins. Leo did not start with motivation. He did not wait to feel ready. He started with elimination. The first thing he removed was dependence on conditions. Before, everything had to be perfect. Enough sleep, enough time, the right mood, the right place. If any of those were missing, he did nothing. And that was the problem. Musashi warned about this centuries ago. If your strength depends on conditions, then you are already weak, because conditions are never stable. Leo understood that if he wanted real strength, his discipline had to work anywhere, on good days and bad days, at home or on the road, with energy or without it. So he chose one simple rule. Every day, he would do push-ups. No equipment, no schedule, no excuses. 20 push-ups, any place, any time. At first, it felt almost too easy. That is why it worked. The first week passed without resistance. The second week, his body started to complain. The third week, work travel disrupted his routine. The fourth week, he got sick. This was where the old pattern usually ended. But this time, the rule was different, never 0. If he was tired, he did 10. If he was sick, he did 5. If the day was chaos, he still did something. The number did not matter. The continuity did. Each day he showed up, something shifted, not in his body first, but in his identity. He was no longer someone who tried to train. He was someone who did not skip. That is when he realized the power of elimination. He did not add discipline. He removed the option to quit. And once quitting was gone, strength had space to grow. By the time the habit was solid, something unexpected happened. Leo was stronger, but his mind was still noisy. The body showed up automatically. The mind did not. Worries followed him everywhere. Deadlines, money, fear of disappointing people. He realized something important. Physical discipline alone was not enough. This is where Musashi placed his greatest emphasis. Not on technique, not on strength, but on the mind that does not move. Musashi wrote that in battle, your mind should be the same as when you are drinking tea. No tension, no excitement, no fear. Just presence. Leo did not understand how this was possible until he realized the mistake most people make. They try to control emotions. Musashi trained people to stop reacting to them. So Leo practiced something simple. When stress appeared, he did nothing. He did not fight it. He did not suppress it. He observed it. In traffic, when anger rose, he noticed it. In meetings, when anxiety appeared, he stayed with it. At home, when tension showed up, he watched it without acting. At first, this felt unbearable. Every instinct told him to react. But he stayed. He noticed his heart racing, his jaw tightening, his breath shortening. And then something changed. The sensations rose, and they fell. Without action, without escape. The first real test came at work. A confrontation, raised voices, pressure. The old version of Leo would have shut down. This time he stayed calm. He spoke clearly. He did not rush. He did not freeze. The moment passed. That was when he understood Musashi completely. The mind does not become still by force. It becomes still when you remove the habit of reaction. And once reaction is gone, clarity takes its place. By the time Leo stabilized his body and mind, Musashi introduced a rule that changed everything. Do not fight to win. Fight so you cannot lose. Most people misunderstand this. They chase brilliance. They push too hard. They expose themselves. Musashi believed victory comes from removing weaknesses, not chasing domination. If there are no gaps, there is nothing to attack. Leo applied this immediately. At his new job, he stopped trying to impress. He arrived on time. He delivered exactly what he promised. He avoided drama. He made no excuses. While others tried to stand out, Leo focused on being unbreakable. No missed deadlines. 3 months later, he was promoted, not because he was the smartest, but because he was the most reliable. This principle applies everywhere. In training, do not aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. In relationships, do not aim to be perfect. Aim to be dependable. If this idea feels uncomfortable, that is the point. It exposes how much you rely on shortcuts. If you understand this principle, comment too, because removing weaknesses is where strength begins. By this point, Leo had built what most people think is the final goal. A strong body, a calm mind, reliable discipline. But Musashi warned that this stage is dangerous. Not because of weakness, but because of attachment. Leo noticed something unsettling. He was no longer afraid of failure. He was afraid of stopping. Afraid that one missed day would destroy everything. Afraid that the strength he built was fragile, temporary. That fear was subtle, but it was still fear. This is where Musashi introduced his most difficult principle: letting go of the self. Musashi wrote that true freedom appears when you abandon identification with outcomes. You are not your wins. You are not your losses. You are only the practice. Leo realized he was still measuring himself, counting days, tracking streaks, waiting for validation. So, he removed it. He stopped counting training days. He stopped celebrating milestones. He stopped sharing progress. The work continued. The discipline remained. But now there was no audience, no pressure to maintain an image, no fear of losing status. And something strange happened. The training became lighter, not easier, but quieter. Without ego involved, effort no longer felt heavy. There was nothing to protect, nothing to prove. This shift changed how people responded to him. Not with admiration, but with discomfort. People stopped complaining around him. They avoided joking about discipline and excuses. Some even said he was becoming too serious. What they were reacting to was not arrogance, it was reflection. When someone lets go of fear and validation, they become a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. Leo understood then that this was the final removal, the removal of the need to be seen. Once that disappeared, nothing external could shake him. Because strength that depends on identity can be lost, but strength that becomes identity cannot. What you've just heard is not a story about a warrior, and it is not a story about Leo. It is a mirror. Everything described here is available to you, not the result, but the process. The same number of hours, the same human nervous system, the same ability to train discomfort instead of avoiding it. The difference is never talent, it is willingness. Willingness to remove what makes you weak, willingness to stop negotiating with yourself, willingness to practice until practice becomes identity. This level of strength is not for everyone, not because it is impossible, but because it demands honesty and consistency and discomfort. Most people choose comfort, a few choose capability. If you are still here, you already know which one you are leaning toward. So, here is the only real question. What is the first weakness you will remove? What is the first excuse you will eliminate? If this video gave you clarity, support the channel by subscribing and leaving a like. It helps this message reach people who need it. And write in the comments what you are willing to eliminate starting today. Because strength that scares others is always built quietly, one deliberate action at a time.